Hey, so we all go live all the time. And one of the things, every time I see somebody named Laurel come into a live, I always want to call them Yanni.
Hmm.
Y'all ever want to do that?
I haven't had a lot of laurels pass by my guest list, but yeah, I could see that happening.
I suppose if I had a Yanni, I would want to call him Laurel, but it's just because of that whole the meme thing. Monkey Boy, did you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I've only to be honest, when people say the names, you don't hear it. It's like when the AI says it, like the robot says it, then you can you're like, holy shit, wait, I could hear it, you know?
I hear Laurel or I hear Yanni. The one I never understood was the dress thing.
Yeah, you can never convince me. You can't convince me that that's not a blue and black dress. All right, people are looking at like white and gold. I have no idea how you're seeing white and gold. That's nothing but a blue and white dress. Same thing. There was like a
the
sneaker that was like a white and green or something, and people were saying it was like pink. I don't know, man. That dress thing.
them rods and cones ain't working.
Yeah.
I think the part about it that actually pisses me off is when people say, if you see blue and black, you are this type of, like, they start giving you like the psychology of who you
Yep.
are because you saw this. If you see white and gold, you actually like daffodils. And like, no, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with that? And it happens for every single meme. Every single time that there's something and people are like, the top 10 or this video came up on your feed because you are this type of person. Like, no, it came up on my
Right.
feed because I've been doom scrolling for 3 hours and I ran out of runway on my shit. And now you showing me some other shit. Like, that's why it came up on my feed.
Right.
There's also the lady that every now and again pops up and says, hey, you've been scrolling for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that lady, whenever she comes up, just pisses me the hell off. Like, do you scroll faster when she comes up on your thing? Like, I can't scroll fast enough.
She doesn't, at this point, I have it down to where she doesn't even get to say the hello. And I'm like, no, forget it. I do that also with anything that pops up where I know they're doing a TikTok shop thing, because sometimes they have like memes where it starts out like, oh, I'm pranking my husband. Hey, did you know there's a dicer slicer thing you spin? And that's what, there's no, you wasted my time. Swipe on. I think the main thing in here is that there's a combination of things on the internet that you're supposed to look at and they give you a certain impression. And there are other things that are like designed to hold your gaze. And we blindly scroll through and we have no idea what the fuck we're looking at. Everybody talks about the algorithm. On TikTok, they had the F1 era where somebody says something like that could get you banned. They're like, oh,
Mm.
everybody put F1 in the chat. I don't know if that does
Oh
anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
I
guys never
remember
saw
that,
that?
or like I don't know if that was a little bit before my time. I don't remember seeing that, but I remember seeing similar things like that, right? Where people are just like, if you're on the pan, like if you're the host and you're liking your live, right, or something like, it's gonna mess up the algorithm or similar things to that. Yeah.
TikTok has one of the most sophisticated algorithms in the world. Their revenue stream is based specifically on selling like whatever the little animations are, the GIFs, or the stuff in the TikTok shop. And people literally feel like, hey, if I say TikTok shop, and I do it too, but
Mm.
if I say I love the TikTok shop, they're not gonna ban me because they're gonna say, hey, they're promoting my product. Like the fact that 0 people bought a single TikTok product during this whole live, and you just said it after you said the N word or some shit. Now they're gonna be like,
Right.
oh, wait a minute, commercial for free. Don't ban that guy. TOS be damned. It's just crazy to me how many people feel like they figured out the algorithm or
Mm.
the program without any analysis. I don't see anybody bringing up any spreadsheet, but I think this is a good point to tell you guys that I want to welcome you to the End of a Species podcast. I'm Jeff from End of a Species. You guys have known me for a while as Jeff from End of a Species, but this is your first time on the podcast.
On the
So we've
podcast,
got
yeah.
Jim, welcome up, Monkeyboy, my friends from the social media app TikTok. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah. I go by Monkeyboy Logic on TikTok and YouTube. Content creator, primarily debates, philosophy, religion, sometimes philosophy broadly. There's like some content of mine that's sometimes very fringe but political, but yeah, it's generally debate content.
Yeah, also, and I go by Just Jim on TikTok, and also in the debate of philosophy and philosophy of religion mostly. So that's kind of like where the majority of the conversation goes to.
And that's where I met y'all, right? Like we go in those circles.
Yeah.
I've been trying to come back to philosophy of religion debates slowly, because I've been in the political realm for so long. But actually, this type of content is what I'm most focused on now. So I appreciate you guys for rolling through. And today's topic, since we're talking about people that believe weird stuff without analysis or evidence, really has to do with a conversation that I had a couple weeks ago where somebody gave me a version of like an argument about Jesus Christ and why I should believe the resurrection happened. And I'm just going to say this. I haven't said that. This is the very first episode of this podcast that even touches on religion. So I'm just going to say it outright. I don't believe that shit. Shout out to Super Solid when I say, that shit ain't real. But basically, the way that the argument went, and I'm just going to go over it like broadly, is that the followers of Jesus and some of the detractors of Jesus after he died believed that that they had some interaction with him and they changed their lives and they were really, really convinced and they were martyred and all this other stuff. And that's the reason that I should say that the resurrection is historical, like fact. And so just on that alone, what's the first impression you get of somebody saying something like that?
I mean, the fact that people had experiences, I don't think for me is sufficient enough to classify something as a fact, right? People have experiences of things all the time, but just because even people that were believers or people that were, non-believers or something, experience alone, I don't think, I guess, rises to the level, right? That we could say, well, that definitely happened then if you experienced it, right? I mean, that's my first impression of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know much about the historical standing, but when people say there's like that many people, like I'm not even sure, like I'm not even convinced those people existed or anything like that. But like you could play like a game, we could just like assume as much as we want. And I just don't really see what that does to offer you reasons to believe it because they were confident so much so they're willing to risk their lives. We know maybe some facts about their psychology that they just strongly believe what they do, but that doesn't mean their reasons were good. Most people are just not good reasoners and can be very confident about the poor reasons they have in favor of what they do. So they have, extremes, showing feats about how strongly they believe what they do, but it's not really anything interesting, at least when you analyze it in a more like rigorous way.
That brings up a good point because when I hear it, the knee jerk is to say, how do you know they believed it? How do you know that like they're not here to cross examine? And I mean, and that's cool, right? But at the time, the thing that I wanted to say was that even if they did believe it, so what? Like it's the first century. Not to say that anybody was stupid, but they really didn't have a CSI unit to investigate anything. They didn't have as sophisticated medical knowledge as we have today. There certainly weren't recording devices where you could say, hey, I took a picture of this and look, it's the same guy. A lot of the things that we would expect today if somebody made the same type of claim or if somebody claimed to have seen the same type of thing, that wasn't even like available to them. Like I could see today if somebody says it and they're like, I can't afford to do the forensics. That's one thing. But they didn't, even if they had all the money in the world, that wasn't available. It wasn't even an option.
I just wanted to say something. It's like this God is a God of excuses. Why? It's like he does all the interesting stuff at the most like weak point in human history. Like why not like 1,000, 10,000, or not 10,000, but like years later where we're technologically sophisticated such that, that brings skeptics more reasons, right? Like I don't I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a good point, right? Because we look at modern examples, right, where we have all the tools available to us, or at least very sophisticated tools. And let's take a field like medicine, right, where we have lab tests, we have like, very sensitive instruments, right? We have cameras, all these things, and still there are misdiagnoses, right? Or there's still errors that are done, right? And so, not to say that these people like you said, were dumb or anything, right? But they were limited in what they could, how they could investigate this, right? And sure, they had some very strong conviction or belief that something happened, but I'm not sure that that raises to the level of like verification or how strong could that have been, right? Where even today we get mistaken with these things.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say, is that even if he had waited for today, we get people that today make claims like, hey, this person died and came back. This other person, this other thing happened. And even then, the information that we get or the evidence that we get is lacking. Like in the cases where for other things, we would, even when we have, like say for like a murder case, there are times where we have a ton of evidence and information and we're still arguing, did OJ do it, right? The highest profile things, and we're not 100% sure. So even if it was today, I would say like, hey, do you really have any way to confirm that? And is this really the best demonstration that you want to give us? And I know people who are believers are going to turn around and say, you see, even if we gave you evidence, you're not going to, but that's not my fault. Like you're the one that picked the arena. You're the one that said, hey, here's this unfalsifiable, like super high bar of evidence thing that you have to know is going to, and remember, the claim is that he knew when it was going to happen. You have to know when it's going to happen and then have all the cameramen there to peep it. And we don't get that. We don't get anything like that where it's like, hey, I'm gonna Life of David Gale die at this time. Everybody come watch me, watch my body for 3 days and then watch me just get up casually and walk out. No, we're left with where did the body go? Who moved did somebody move a rock? And hey, the excuse of, hey, if there's 4 different vantage points, you're gonna get stuff wrong. That's not a good thing. That's not a flex that you got stuff wrong. I would want you to get everything right.
But you forget there's an empty tomb, right? That's evidence enough, right? There's an empty tomb, so that definitely means that happened, right? I mean, I think that just underlines the point, right? Like, yeah, there could have been a lot of different ways, a lot stronger evidence that could have been left, even if they were limited, that we're still left wanting in order to kind of like support this notion that he did resurrect.
You talk about this a lot, Monkeyboy. Like you have conversations about what would count as evidence or what does count as evidence. And I hear you sometimes say that like because it's evidence of like Christianity specifically is not evidence for theism. But in this case, what would you expect as evidence or strong evidence for like a resurrection?
I'm not really sure because it seems like the evidences you can have for a resurrection is just as much evidence as a like type of non-theistic explanation. It's gonna be something like, oh, the person was if we found Jesus was missing, oh well, in some cases you might want to, I don't know if I've heard it's fake, but the Shroud of Turin, the reason I'm not confident in that is because whatever the light effect was on the cloth, kind of just unclear to me why, if a God existed and resurrected Jesus, would he want to do it with the light effect? Some people still want to argue there's not maybe an argument for that type of thing, but you still have a stronger expectation than if it were like a naturalistic explanation, and I'm really unconvinced of that. So to me, it's not really clear what would strongly motivate that thing.
So I guess, yeah, like the Shroud of Turin, to me, I don't really debate it much because by the time somebody's showing me some paperwork or some research on it, there's a lot of inconclusive, or there's a lot of this was done when I was in elementary school and I'm old. So I'm not really going to be moved by that. But what I will say is that there's such a thing as like a chain of custody. And so if there was such a shroud and then somebody found the shroud and there's so many years between A and B, and the way that we would, this isn't like a fossil where you can like say generate some expectation and say, I have species A and then I have species C. And then if I go to this geological place, I can expect to see something in between those two, and we're looking for species B. No, this is a cloth that was supposedly over one person's face, and we don't have DNA, and we have 4 or 5 different explanations for why, if there's blood on it, it is the way it is. So this isn't like, hey, there's a blood type that we know is specifically Jesus. We don't even know. There's so many question marks to begin with, and then we don't know where this thing came from. So it's not like when you see in the Jesus movies with the Holy Grail, where there's some old man in a cave somewhere that's been keeping watch over this cup for thousands of years until Indiana Jones comes to pick the right one or something. No, this is just somebody found it and said, hey, look, I found this. It's Jesus's. And we're like, okay, why? Random blood type, and somebody suffered. Do you know how many people suffered from year nothing to now?
How many crucifixions alone happen in first century Rome? Like that, it's not novel.
And in just that area, how many segments of time had just piles of bodies on the side of the road where people are you're just on your horse and you look to the side. You played The Witcher, and just bodies, and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to go get some milk. But you have to ignore the corpses that is like, hey, make sure you don't steal that milk, because this is the reminder of what the fuck happens if you steal the milk, Jean Valjean. That, to me, is enough to say, like, okay, so it could be any of those guys, but no, it's got to be Jesus. This is what I'm supposed to. So the Shroud of Turin, like, just to bring it back, super weak. I would say, like, maybe, and Monkeyboy, tell me if you agree with this, like, today, evidence of a resurrection would be somebody dying in a controlled environment, flatline, like where we have a doctor that calls the time of death, and they kind of Babe Ruth call, like, hey, today's Tuesday. On Friday, I'm going to be on time for work. Watch. And then we have a 24/7 closed circuit TV camera on that body. And then on day 3, light, I don't care if it's light or whatever, they just go and get up. Would you be able to say that's a resurrection?
Yeah.
Now, here's the trick, and I'll let both of you answer. If I put that challenge forward to believers, and I put some James Randi $100,000 up, like, hey, if you could get this to happen, do you think anybody would even attempt that, or even say, like, hey, I think this might happen at some point, like they do with the rapture? I think this might happen at some point.
Yeah, I think you'll be hard pressed to find takers.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any.
Because, look, not that would make me a believer per se, but I would look at it as impressive. I would probably stop my crusade to decapitate godbounty.com. Like, I would probably, like, suspend that for a little bit. Like, hey, maybe just in case, they're resurrecting motherfuckers out here. Like, I don't want to test that. But I say that because we're constantly in this state of people saying, hey, God has this power, that power. And we say, okay, so pray for this. And sometimes, I've seen some people say that seriously. Some of my friends will actually say, like, hey, I have a friend who is in the hospital and they need prayer. And when they pose that question, that's not how it works. And other times you see people like, hey, make this can on my on my desk move with your prayer. And you could tell they're kind of being facetious, but the response is the same. That's not how it works. I don't see how you can be super confident that a resurrection happened on command, but not confident that you can make this other mundane thing happen. Like, hey, we'll fix this guy's bum leg, or, stage 2, like, not to downplay it, but like cancer is probably not as serious as a crucifixion. So if you could recover from a crucifixion, then if you could fix that, you could probably fix cancer. And it's not even like we're going to even try it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think that they're already committed, right, to the story. So therefore they're committed to believing that this thing happened, right? And the fact that we don't see it happen today, right, or something similar happen today, just kind of gives them, creative license to explain it away as in terms of why it doesn't happen anymore today, right? But It would be good evidence that would help us believe that something like that could happen if we see more of it happening today.
And that's actually a good point, because we sort of do see similar things happen today, just not the miracle stuff. We do see
Right.
the cult stuff. We do
Right.
see people go into a building and come out and everybody saw this crazy thing happen. And then we're like, yo, can I see it too? Well, it just happened the one time. And I gave him my life savings, that kind of thing. We see people take whole pilgrimages across continents to see this one dude in a village where everybody is venerating that guy. And then years later, I mean, in a lot of cases, I'm not going to say in all cases, in a lot of cases, years later, you find out that this dude was doing some of the most horrendous stuff to women, sometimes, I mean, not in all cases, but sometimes to children, sometimes to all sorts of different people, all in the name of, I'm the guy. I did a thing that looked like a miracle one time, and you guys, I saw it and believe somebody who saw it. And now I'm in charge of the village, and people are spending thousands of dollars to trek to wherever I'm at so that I could tell them something like I'm the Sphinx and Mystery Men that sounds super deep but don't mean nothing, and then send you on your way. And look, I don't want to downplay the feel good of deepities. I kind of do, but if that's all you got, cool. But that's what it is, right? Like, we do see that today. We see a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that community and groups help reinforce a lot of these beliefs, right? And it could have been something that happened back then, right? But we definitely see it today, right? We see it with, a lot of viral, stories that go on in terms of urban myths and things like that. Think about like UFO stories, right? And so it's really easy for some idea, right, to become socially believable before we could actually see any kind of evidence, right? And it just kind of perpetuates and permeates within, this group, right? And it becomes very isolated to them.
Yeah, that makes me think of something myself. Like, think back, like, I don't really remember. I know like some apologists give answers, but like, why is it like there used to be people like Elijah who could literally send down fireballs. I'm not really sure what's the explanation for why God doesn't do those feats today. It's kind of strange. And that's just goes back to the thing about a God of excuses. At the time where we have the most like sophisticated way of analyzing data is the one where all the data doesn't want to appear. But the omnipotent being can basically endow anyone the ability to perform the data. So
That's funny you should mention that. I was in a conversation just this morning where it was about Elijah. And so the scenario with Elijah, and y'all can look this up. By y'all, I mean the audience. Elijah goes to the prophets of this other dude and says, hey, put your sacrifice on there, but don't light it on fire. And then he goes to his people and like, put the sacrifice and soak the wood with water. And they bring buckets and buckets of water. Cool, cool. By the way, everybody wets the wood. Nobody says no pause. Not a single person says ayo in the verse. They're just letting that wood get wet and they're just chilling. That's cool. I'm going to just look that. And then the man says, hey, boom, boom, boom. You pray, we pray. Fire comes down, gets rid of the water, does the whole thing. We go. The person we were talking to said, if you're a non-believer, you have to ask for it for yourself. And so to your point, Monkey Boy, like, why did those other prophets ain't have to ask for nothing? They were just sitting there, like, they were actually mocking, like, oh, you putting water on you ain't going to do nothing. And then they were humbled, like, they were made to eat crow, like, oh, your God didn't bring down fire. My God, look at the fire. My God brought the fire down. So why I got to ask for something? Like, you should be able to say, I'm praying and your driveway cracked in half or something. Or that coma patient that we were talking about this morning got healed, because that's what the person was asking for was, hey, I have a friend who is in a coma. Can they get healing? And they were like, well, you got to ask for that yourself. I don't see, I agree with you, Monkey, but I don't see why there's that difference between the two.
yeah, I don't. It's the God of excuses. That's all it is.
Well, I'm going to say this is a good point to go to our next segment, which I like to do a top 5. I'm going to tell you what the top 5 is for today. And then we're going to go over the top 5, right? But I want you guys to come up with your own things you would add to the list. Critique my list. I don't care. It's just a list of things that I was thinking of. And this actually I came up with earlier this week at like 2 a.m. I just shot up. I looked at my wife. I'm like, I have a good idea. I have to write it down. And so the top 5 today is the top 5 things from modern times that would fool them in the first century. So the top 5. Number 5 is a defibrillator. So we're talking about resurrections. Talk about fooling you. If I charge to, I don't know, I watched The Pit. I'm not even going to guess. Charge to whatever number they said and go clear, boom, and now your pulse is back. By the way, I don't even know that they knew what a pulse was back then, but the person is up and walking now and their chest hurts. And so, look, I laid hands and these things. That would fool them. I don't know, like meteorology, astronomy, being able to predict when there's going to be a solar eclipse. Like, it's one thing for people to say, hey, during this time, there was this type of moon. But being able to say that 2 years prior, because it's on a calendar, because we know the next like 50 solar eclipses and corn moons and blue moons and red moons and all that others. Like, look this up. For the next who knows how long, we could tell you exactly when each of these things are. And if I was to go back then and be like, yeah, it's going to be a full moon next week on the 7th. And I'm right. I'm a prophet. Because they did a lot of stuff by the moon. Anesthesia. That's number 3. Anesthesia would fool like, how come I can't feel nothing? Like, you cut me open and I don't feel like knee surgery on a person in the first century with anesthesia. I'm pretty sure that there were people maybe like in Egypt doing like surgery on, like rudimentary surgery on corpses. Fact check me, but don't email me. I'm not going to respond. If surgery happened way before then, I just know that anesthesia, today's anesthesia, that countdown from 10 anesthesia, that shit would fool them. Here's one. Number 2, a smartphone. No service. I don't need no service on this thing. Just enough battery to show 10 people Candy Crush or Angry Birds or Excel. Like, hey, or better yet, a camera. Like, click, click, look, here's you. And it's not a mirror. You're standing still. That would probably fool them. And number one, and it's not even close, David Blaine in his prime, no props. Just send him, like, look, sit him down with some ancient Near East experts for 30 minutes and be like, look, this is how you say hello and goodbye in Aramaic and in Greek. And then put him through the TARDIS and go, bow. Do some tricks. They will forget about Yeshu who? Did you see that this dude had a rock in his hand, wrote his name on it in hieroglyphics or whatever the fuck, and then it appeared in my pocket with my name and a picture of my grandma? Like, that's the Messiah. In the first century, David Blaine is the Messiah. And they would be too scared to resurrect him because he just spent a month in a tank of water with no food and was like, yo, what's a crucifixion going to do to this man? He is in charge. Caesar is no more. So what do y'all think of the top 5 for this episode?
Yeah, man, definitely an interesting list. I could see David Blaine for sure fooling a lot of people. I think in the same vein, right? Like, you could even think of like mentalists. Have you ever seen those kind of like mentalists that, people that are good at cold reading, right? If you were just able to cold read somebody and put them back in the first century, right? People would be blown away, right? You don't even have to go that far. Like, just somebody who's like really good at like psychology, right? Somebody who's like really good at like reading people and like knows a little bit of sociology back then, right? Just go back there and like be able to tell how people are going to act before they do it. I mean, like, easily build a big following.
Yeah, like if you like what's that movie? I forget what it's called. With they're like called the Four Horsemen. The Now You Seen It.
Oh,
Is that what
yeah.
it's called? Now You Seen It.
Now You See Me, yeah.
Yeah, you see me. Yeah.
Put them together and biggest religion right there. They just win life.
Hey, yeah, wasn't there the first trick in that movie that they stole money from a bank? Was it in another country or across the country or whatever? Yeah, forget it. Yeah. Hey, here's a country you never heard of, and we're going to go ahead and bring in, here's a trinket from some country you never heard of. Boom, they win.
I mean,
Even
the second movie, they stopped rain, right? I forgot how they did it, but that would have they would have went nuts.
Yeah.
Everyone's faith is in them. There's no way you stop the rain and they don't start believing.
you didn't even have to get so like illusionary. Just like bring a scientist who knows a lot about like physics or a lot about like biology or chemistry, bro. Definitely blow people's minds away.
Mr. Wizard in his Mr. Wizard in his prime, or Bill Nye. Look, I got beef with Bill Nye, but Bill Nye in his prime, like, yeah. Hey, check out, or the modern day would be like Neil deGrasse Tyson just talking. Hey, did you know that the whatever you're doing is really because of this? Yeah,
this guy got the answer.
One thing,
he got all the answers.
That stuff about the phone that you mentioned, that reminds me how funny. Like, imagine showing someone, like you could show someone like Age of Ultron, like the Avengers movie, and then they'll think that that's like sometime in the future. You just show them a camera, oh, like what instrument, captures video, and then you just show them Age of Ultron. They're like, wow, there really is an apocalypse. Robots take over.
The way people would turn to Norse mythology. Like if you went to like the year, what is it, like 1500, 1400, like around that time when all the Scandinavians were headed to like, Scandinavians and Anglo-Saxons were like the whole thing. And then you showed them Thor, like, look, he did like this, and Mjolnir went back to him, just like in the whatever the fuck. That's it. Like, hey, Thor is real, confirmed. Odin and it's Anthony Hopkins. Like, yeah, I feel you 100%. Let me ask y'all this: if 10 of your closest friends, I want you to picture 10 people that are on your squad. These are like people you would turn to for an alibi if you needed it. If they went up to you and they said they saw something, and it's like something impossible. They saw, like, they were at the beach and they saw what seemed like a T-Rex coming out the water, and then it turned back into the water. And all 10 of them saw it. Would you believe them?
I mean, I would believe they saw something. I don't know that I'd believe it was a T-Rex coming out of the because for the most part, I would hope that my friends are rational, unless they were all one of those weekends at the beach where they're partaking of a lot of original candy, if you will. But if they're rational, I'm sure they probably saw something. I'm not sure I would jump to believe exactly word by word what it is that they saw.
Yeah, what was I gonna? So I guess it kind of turns what friends you got. I got friends who they'd lie for fun, so you got to be wary of that, right? Like the pranksters. But like if they're like being wholehearted, assuming I could read their behaviors well enough that I don't think they're group lying. Some of them I don't think maybe would get in on it. I would maybe, like Jim said, I probably might think they're seeing something, though I don't think the explanation for what they're seeing maybe is the thing that's actually there. There's just a lot beyond just mere description of what you're seeing, because sometimes memories are distorted. You create false memories. You could deceive others into believing they had memories they didn't because they were present with you. You could be rhetorical. You don't read all the environment. There's relevant facts in the environment you forget, and other stuff. But the best case scenario is, okay, they had those observations. How confident maybe am I they're all mistaken given my background information? I would maybe myself not be all that confident, but that would definitely be strong reasons to think they're seeing something like that. But if the question is, would I think that they just saw what they're just claiming to see? I would think, yeah, I would be far more confident, though it's not entirely clear whether I would believe them. I think I would believe them, but there's like a kind of a separation between the psychology, whether I'm inclined to be believing it, and whether it's like the rational thing. Maybe I have to do a whole like Bayesian calculus, like I have to whip out a calculator and do all the maths. But I think just on first impression, hearing things like that, reading their bodies, thinking they're not lying, I would think I would be incredibly confident, if not just on the spot believe they saw something like that. Yeah.
Like, think about if they were to see, like, there's a store y'all go to, and you didn't hang out with them last night, but they swear that store was on fire. Like, somebody threw a Molotov cocktail or some shit through the window. But then you go to the store and it's fine. And they swear up and down they saw that store on fire. But here's the next morning and you go and it's fine. You know, that kind of thing. And
Right.
I'm posing it to you guys because I know you both are pretty well versed in philosophy, pretty like, super well versed in epistemology at least. The question is really more for the audience, right? Like, I want to know, how would you deal with something like that? Leave in the comments if you have dealt with something like that, but also to relate that to like a resurrection claim. If people that were close to you right now said they saw something like that, a resurrection, and they said, "Hey, I experienced that person that died a few days ago. I just had an experience with that person," and you say, "Where are they?" They're not here. They're gone. They went up to the sky. With that level of information, how confident would you be with people you know that you are super close to today, that you trust implicitly, like your parents or something like that, your best friends? How inclined would you be to believe that claim while we're being told to believe the claim of
Yeah.
some parchments that were like, you know what I mean? Like some scrolls
Yeah.
that were found to say a thing.
Yeah. I mean, uh, I would want to see if it's more than one friend. I would want to see if they all need help or something, right? Because it's not normal that a group of people collectively would have some type of experience with somebody who is deceased or something, right? We just don't see that happening by and large, right? So I would be very hard pressed to believe, even if I know them really well, even if it was my family, right? Like my mom, my sister, my brother, or something. Like I'd be like, well, let's take a step back. Like, what's going on here? I wouldn't be so quick to jump on the belief. Again, right? I would totally accept that they experienced something, all right, but I'm not sure that I would accept the veracity of what it is that they experienced. Yeah, and those are people close to me, right? Those are people like my immediate family, or people
Yeah.
that like my whole life, right? It's like still there's a little bit of hesitation, right?
I would not be as confident, I think, in the dinosaur case for this particular reason, which is that, the kind of wishful thinking into experiences. If you might not actually, like, this is different from, having per se false memories, but you can fool yourself in a different way. Like, there's little clues and you're already like sympathetic to something like Christianity. So if you saw this person, or you see like stuff that are like small signals, you might trick yourself in thinking, "Oh, I really saw that," right? While you actually didn't per se have the event. Um, while in the dinosaur case, people don't want to see a dinosaur jumping from the beach when they're out swimming. I mean, maybe your friend wants to say that they want to sound badass, and they're like, "Yo, that shit would be dope," but they don't really want to see that while they're swimming, right? Like a monster jump from the waters. In this very Western environment, Christianity, has like a hold on most of the population. Even if you don't believe in it, you hear stories all the time. You can make kind of jumps from what already sounds like it works well with Christianity to thinking, oh, I'm actually having that experience. Maybe you see like barefoot or some. I'm not really sure exactly what you might want to like make up in the scenario that you see that makes you think you had the experience of Jesus. Maybe there's a gleam of light you see that hits your eyes, and then you act as if you saw a silhouette, right? But you really didn't. And then you just see footprints that don't trail to something else. Maybe there's some other explanation. Maybe they're not even real footprints, right? Like if someone was standing there and then lifted up, you wouldn't. So that's some of the things. It's not. It's kind of unclear how much of the confidence would deplete from the case of the dinosaur, but I think it would be relatively the same. I would be confident maybe they had those experiences, not strongly anything beyond that, just that they have those experiences. But with those types of considerations, I would be even more cautious with claims like that with Jesus.
Quick pause. If you're getting value out of this, the best way to support the show is through the End of a Species support page. That's what keeps the streams consistent, the research tight, and the production getting better over time. The link is in the description. Jump in if you want to help build this thing. Yeah, let's do this. With all those scenarios, the 10 friends telling you, I was going to say, by the way, I used to actually do this when I was younger. If you got drunk or if you partook in the candy you were talking about, Jim, around me at the beach, I would actually like speak real low next to you and be like, hey, what'd you do if you saw like Godzilla coming out the ocean? Like, Pete, look off into the horizon, and like, because then every wave, your mind, I would want to say, like, can I make their mind play tricks on them? Yeah. And so that would be my reaction if 10 friends came up to me like, hey, we y'all like messing with some D-rugs, or you on some narcs? What's good? Like, don't tell me, but like, that's just, don't blink if that's what was going on, because that would be my first go-to. I don't know that I would believe, especially if it was like, hey, last night, even if they weren't, I think maybe you're too tired and you're just seeing things, or you just missing, you dreamt some stuff up and it was like really real to you. But look, nobody else saw a T-Rex and that building is still there. So I'm going to go with what I'm seeing with my eyes. And I think that's the point, is that if we have things like that, when people give us a testimony and we can't be confident enough in that, how could we ever be confident in, a resurrection? Especially with the argument as laid out at the beginning. Do y'all have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I think this is going to be a conversation that's going to continue, right? It's been going on for about 2,000 years, and it's a conversation that we have on a daily basis on platforms like TikTok, right? And I think it's just a matter of a difference of approach, right? And how we know things, how we come to believe things. I probably urge everybody, have a little bit of skepticism, right? In terms of the things that they hold to believe, like question it, why it is that they believe what they believe, and kind of like figure out a good standard for holding beliefs.
Yeah, I agree with Jim. Just more diligence has to be done when you're reasoning to conclusions. Too much jumps, they kind of want to get to the answers too quick and they forget the homework.
Well, thank you both for chilling with me today. This was the very first episode of this type of format, which I'm calling End of a Species Sessions. So that is the title of this type of format. I've had shows where I've had conversations with people before and on different topics, but I'm going to be having End of a Species as a brand. I'm expanding to have more conversations in different domains with more of the people that I hang out with on a daily basis. And so I appreciate you both for rolling through, having the convo, chilling, making it entertaining. For all of you watching on your phones or whatever the hell you're watching on, if you haven't hit the like button yet, you just hate black people, and I don't know why that is. If you're not subscribed, you really hate black. Oh, man, that's terrible. If you haven't shared this specific podcast episode or YouTube video with 500 people, the first person to get to share this with 500 people, I will give this water bottle as a prize. So there you go. This has been the End of a Species podcast. I'm Jeff from End of a Species, here with Jim and Monkeyboy, and I'll see you guys next time.